All right, before we get into our picks, let's talk about the boogeyman, the new boogeyman of the welterweight division, which is your man Jaron Ennis, and he is fighting your man Karen Chikatsian, who is from Ukrainian, but he's Ukrainian. He's from Ukraine, but maybe of Armenian descent. So this is pretty much a stay in your position fight. I look at it as a showcase fight for Jaron Ennis, who is basically the mandatory for 3 sanctioning bodies. And he's just waiting.
Oh, wait, hold a sec. Wait, he's not the mandatory. Let's make sure we're being crystal clear here. He is in the number 1 position.
Yeah, number 1 position.
But
and
that's
I
not
said basically, mandatory. So I want to.
All right, fair enough. All right, not trying to be picky, but just so we know for our listeners. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was saying, but I mean, when I say that, so if he, there's only 2 champions out there, actual champions, right? So there's Earl Spence, and then who has the WBA, IBF, and WBC belts, and then there's Terrence Crawford, who has the WBO belts. So he's waiting for his opportunity to fight one of them. He seems to be chomping at the bit for some reason to go after Earl Spence, but let's just kind of talk about use this as a way to kind of talk about the welterweight division. Do we see Chikatsian posing any kind of problem for Ennis, and then where should he go following this? So let's turn right back to the casual one, because he has some kind of thoughts about this, because there's some other implications when it comes to this to these belts, and that is that Virgil Ortiz is fighting Stanionis, correct, for the regular
WBA.
I think for the regular WBA belt. So let's just kind of talk about what you expect to see from Ennis in this fight, and then what's the logical path for him to go next.
I mean, I have never seen this carrying guy, so I'm assuming that this is another tune-up for Boots. But what's interesting is what's next. Boots is going to try to, from what I'm reading, he's petitioning the IBF to be Spence mandatory, where if he sits on his hands, he's already going to be Terrence Crawford's mandatory. But when I was talking to him in
that's no way. That's not true.
Yes, he would.
Nah, Ennis is number 2 in the WBO. Virgil Ortiz.
So just like I told Professor, so if Ortiz beats Stanionis, where does he go?
Oh, I see. He goes to this. I guess he gets this secondary WBA belt.
And then if you're the WBA champ, then you're not a mandatory.
I see what you're saying. Okay, I apologize. I see what you're saying.
So what in pre-production, where me and you were talking about, is now the networks is going to cause this fight not to happen. So if I understand, if you're Ennis, the easiest route to a belt will be Spence.
Yeah, not much easier, because he hasn't been able to get fights with any of Al's guys. So
I mean, but technically, I think Spence tells you he's not fighting. He's either going to fight. He's going to fight one fight now, and probably Crawford at the end of the year, and then he's going to 154. So,
well, that's interesting, because Jermell Charlo just came out this week and said he might stay at 154 pounds for his whole career. He said he make the weight real easy. So,
but you heard Spence said a couple weeks ago with the who was it, Frank Martin fight, when they were interviewing him, he was like, when they brought up Charlo, he's like, I never said I wouldn't fight him. So, hey,
wow. That's interesting. I believe that shit when I see it.
Yeah,
and he can't just move up and fight. And that's going to be tough for him to move up and just fight Charlo, because he doesn't have the WBO belt, which is the one belt he would need to move up and petition to get a fight right away.
And don't they share camps, right?
Yeah, that's the other thing.
I mean, that's the other thing. You would have to. The trainer would have to. You would put the trainer.
So, like I mentioned, that I've always been saying it's just each one move up. And Jared, it was in boxing news 24/7 where it says Jamal was going to move up, vacate, move up to 168. If that happens, then Jermell, in theory, goes up to 160.
I think that's wishful thinking for Errol Spence fans. I don't think there are very few fights up there for Jermell Charlo. 160 is kind of a no man's land division right now. There is Jaime. I don't know. Maybe let me walk that back, because if you got creative and you were flexible, you can make. I really think the Tim Tszyu fight and a Tony Harrison trilogy fight are bigger fights for Jermell Charlo at 154 pounds than they are at 160. But let's not go too far.
Let's focus on Boots. Let's stay in the welterweight division. So let's go with you, Boston Jared. So what do you see? Because I'm checking out. I don't know a lot about Chikadze, and to be honest, I'm looking at his boxing.
Neither do I. He's fought nobody of note.
He's really.
I was hoping for one guy of note. I mean, even his loss came against somebody.
I saw Ali Finica, but it was way past his prime. And he had already had 7 losses, and So but with that said, so let's just talk about, we're assuming that Ennis, shines in this fight. So what do you think is like a realistic, pathway for him in 2023?
A realistic pathway?
Yeah, not kind of like, if we had our druthers, but what is realistic? Like what is the realistic path for him to get to an actual world title?
Oh, the realistic path is for Spence to vacate and him to fight for a vacant against.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Against maybe a guy like Cody Crowley, but Cody Crowley is If Cody Crowley is ranked 10th in the IBF, if Cody Crowley gets a fight with, I don't know who any of these guys are. Cody Crowley, if they can engineer a way for Cody Crowley to jump up to that number 2 position, that's your fight right there. You go Cody Crowley, Jaron Ennis for Errol Spence's vacated IBF, if that's the belt.
You know what? If you look at it,
that's the most realistic path.
If you look at it, that's not far-fetched, because Ortiz will be out of there. If Spence fight Thurman, he'll be out of there. David Anthony needs to be out of there.
He should have been. Well, I don't know.
Why not? Why not fight somebody like Ortiz?
Ortiz will be if he beats Danny
Ortiz Ortiz's fights on DAZN. He's a Golden Boy fighter. Now, I'm not saying that fight is impossible to make. We see Ryan Garcia, the Ryan Garcia tank fight is being made. Ryan Garcia is a Golden Boy fighter, so I don't want to dispel that. Let's see how Ryan Garcia
Ortiz will be a champion. I think he'll be Stanionis, and then he'll be off the playing field. So,
right. We're based on what Randy's saying. Yes, that's the answer to your question, Cam. Is probably the most likely outcome when it comes to a potential Virgil Ortiz, Jaron Ennis fight. Is Ortiz gets dropped out of all the rankings when he gets that secondary belt. But interestingly, if Ortiz beats Stanionis, he moves into that regular belt position. Ennis then becomes the one to Virgil Ortiz. Ennis is right behind him in the WBA. So if Errol decides to vacate the WBA, aka We Benefit Al, can order a I don't want to call it order almost like a vacant shot. If Al can convince the WBA to order kind of a vacant title shot, maybe that happens. Although that would ruffle a few feathers because normally the WBA just elevates guys, right? They don't order a eliminator. But we're seeing it.
No matter what, man, it's looking at 2023's shaping up to be new blood at 147 in the belt era. It'd probably be towards the end of the year, but I say my prediction is that towards November-ish, 147 will look like a whole different championship
landscape. Yeah.
Landscape, yeah.
We hope so. We hope so.
Yeah, we hope so.
I'd rather see Rashidi Ellis get that shot at Jaron Ennis. But
let's go to Coach. So Coach, so let's go a different. So I was kind of looking at the what's the most kind of pragmatic route to kind of take with your boy Boots Ennis. But what would you like to see just as a boxing fan, just as a coach, for him to because every time you fight, right, there's some growth that you have and you kind of pick this up. Like, what would you like to see as his kind of next logical step in his progression to be what he hopes, to be an all-time great?
Yeah, man. So, yeah, this is an easy one for me, bro. I mean, so whatever the route is that he's getting there, I think things are about to come to a head with three individuals. Regardless of all the talk that's going on and all the motive and whose side of the fence, I seriously think that because of this guy, Boots Ennis, that when Crawford, Spence, and Ennis, somehow things are getting ready to come to a head. And I just don't want us to dismiss. I know we talk a lot about promoters and doing that stuff. Let us not lose the mindset that when it comes to the boxing sanctioning authorities making up their mind and laying down the law saying, yes, you will do X, Y, and Z, that's what's going to happen. And this guy, man, I would love to see Boots. To be honest with you, I would hope that stuff with Earl would work out where it can happen. But it's kind of like, I don't know who mentioned it. Boots can fight anybody within that rank in the state. But Crowley, Ortiz to fight. I just want to see this guy fight. Whether Earl vacates or not, and goes up, I still think they're going to run into this guy. I can't find the article, but I could have sworn that Boots was talking some type of junk about, hey, I'll even go up to 154 and take all of Jamel's belt. So I can't remember where it was at, but I know it was before the end of the year, like in December or something like that. He had mentioned that. So what I'm getting at, why I'm saying you about to see things come to a head is that, man, you are looking at a guy that's ready to tear up that 147, but you're looking at a guy, and I believe his camp is ready to move, up to do whatever he needs to do to get that fight. So this guy is a major factor it's almost like you got that joker that's causing problems in the world militarily or whatever, and you just can't ignore him. So I'm saying within 2023, not that a fight or whatever may happen, but solid conversations and negotiating might come to the fact where this kid is forcing his way into, regardless, and the steps and the paths that both the Casual Rand and Boston talked about are legit. But I don't know how it's going to happen. But I think in 2023, there's going to be some serious discussion that this division, because of this kid, is about to come to a head. And I'm saying between those three, I'm saying, and let me say it now: Crawford, Spence, and anybody up at 154, if he is truly meant what he said about willing to move up, this guy is coming through.
All right, but we signed off. Make sure y'all like and subscribe.
Peace.
Peace out. Keep it popping.